Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining our public webinar today on December 14th, middle of the month of December. Hopefully all of you participating or listening are having a wonderful holiday season so far. So my name is Jeannie Borum. I am part of the corporate team here at Signworld, and I will be the moderator for today's session. For those of you who have not watched a webinar recording or participated in one previously, just a quick overview of what the format is like for the session today. First, I'm going to turn the floor over to our owners to introduce themselves and provide a little bit of background information about their business and themselves personally, where they're located, etc. And then after we do their introductions, we're going to turn the floor over to our participants who are on the line today and give you an opportunity to ask any question for our owners to answer. We do ask our participants to keep it to a single question at each time. If time permits, we'll be able to go around more than once, just depending on how many we have dialing in today. But we do ask you just to think of one question each time when given that opportunity. So with that said, let's go ahead and allow our owners to introduce themselves first. So Helen, can you please go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Sure. My name is Helen McKinstry. I am the owner of Sabre Sign Solutions. I'm located in Austin, Texas, and I've been in business for about 5.5 years. We are currently in a facility that's about 3,400 square feet. We moved into this larger one about 9 months ago. We started out in 1,760 square feet, and so we about doubled our size. And we would have moved sooner, but we delayed it a bit during COVID. So we're very happy to be in our larger space. I currently have 5 employees, and shouldn't take more time. So our, just a little bit, one of our favorite customers or one of our biggest projects, we have a client that we acquired probably 2 or 3 years ago. After doing an initial smaller job, he really liked not only what we did for him, but how we did it for him and how we interacted with him. And he walked in one day and he said, I'm about to rebrand my 6 freestanding emergency rooms, and you guys have it all. So we've made somewhere around, I don't know, 250 to 300,000 from him in the last maybe 2.5 years. And he is just signing a lease on a new building. And we just gave him the estimate for another $54,000 of exterior and interior signage. On background, I actually was with IBM for many, many, many years. I was the director of a software engineering organization delivering some enterprise portfolio of products, and I moved into business consulting the final years of my career, which was really an interesting area to work as well.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. Really appreciate you sharing. Hamid, if you can give your overview, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. Happy holidays. My name is Hamid Lalani, and I am the owner of Mercury Signs. We're located in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we serve the Triangle area, Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area. We started this in July of 2019. So we're a little more than 3 years in the business. We have 5 employees, including myself. We have a couple, maybe 3 1099s who work part-time for us, and we have a slew of subcontractors. We are still in the same place that we started with the same amount of equipment that we started with. We are about 2,400 square feet, and we are in the process of actually buying property and near the airport, in Raleigh-Durham Airport, near the Raleigh-Durham Airport, and we're going to relocate there in 2 years because we're starting from scratch. We're buying land, cutting down trees, and putting things up. The biggest project this year has been we are working with a private equity fund out of Chicago that is essentially consolidating the daycare market. So after COVID, the daycare market has started booming, sort of, and this company has started with about 43 daycare centers around the country, and they want to go up to 150 in the next year. And so we did about 6 of them this particular year. They're rebranding them. So we do a lot of those facilities. And they happen to be in all the 50 states. So that's kind of a unique customer for us. But most of our customers, unfortunately, are not that big or that nice. They are local businesses, and we have a good amount of those customers as well. My background, I was in the high-tech business. I spent most of my career first in North Carolina in the fiber optic space, where we did a startup, and then in Silicon Valley for the next 23 years. And I left Silicon Valley and moved back home here in North Carolina, and didn't want to retire or didn't know how to retire. So I started this business, and I don't regret it.
Very good, very good. Thank you for that overview, Hamid. Next, let's go to Larry Foster. Larry.
Hi, this is Larry Foster, and I am the owner of Signs and More. We are located in the Detroit market in Troy, Michigan. We're about 30 to 40 miles north of Detroit. I've been in business for 21 years, and I am currently in a building that is 8,000 square feet, which I own. It's my 3rd location. We have 14 employees. We'll do about $1.9 million this year. And our biggest project this year was a subdivision where we replaced the front entrances to the subdivision and changed out all of the street signs to decorative street signs. And that particular job was about $160,000. Let's see, my background, I was in retail. I used to work for Kmart when they were still in business. And when I left them, I was the vice president of operations for the company.
Very good. The blue light special. Can't forget about Kmart back in the day. All right, very good. Thank you for that introduction, Larry. Jack?
I am Jack Werner. I joined Signworld back in 1995. Back in the day when we were more, as Larry joined, we were more of a retail banner shop, working with the yellow pages. So we changed quite a bit. We didn't have digital printing back then. The business was quite different. I started in 1,100 square feet with 1 employee. I ended up 10 years later in 5,000 square feet, staff of 11, doing about 1.3 in sales. I then sold that operation, joined our founder, Ken Kint, in kind of a partnership operation, learning his end of the business, finished buying him out back in 2014. I'm now the president owner of Signworld Corporate Office. If I answer questions today, if it goes more to my experience of running an operation, I'll speak from that perspective. If it goes more to training and policy and support, I'll speak from that perspective. My largest customer was a regional developer for Subway. I did about $250,000 per year. Subway changes every single sign every 4 years, and so just re-upping their current look.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, now's the fun time. We're going to turn the floor over to our participants who've joined us today. So I'm going to ask you to individually come off of mute when you hear your name called. Actually, I need to allow you to all to talk. Give me a second to do that. I just realized, as we talked about earlier, the lady who normally runs these sessions for us behind the scenes is out on maternity leave, so I'm doing double duty today. So now that I've given you all the chance to talk, Joel Brown, if you could take yourself off of mute, go ahead and introduce yourself, where you're from, and give us your question for today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having this time to speak. I really appreciate this. I live in Gambrills, Maryland. Background has been in medical sales for a little over 20 years. And I'm looking for some opportunities to start my own business. My question to the group is, when you're looking at trying to find a business opportunity, were you looking at other opportunities? And if so, what made you choose this opportunity?
Great question. Helen, back in the day when you first were exploring, were you considering other options, and why'd you choose this one?
Yeah, so yes, I started with a kind of a blank slate. Best advice I ever got was know what your goals are. Don't start with what company you want to start. Start with what your goals are. I narrowed it down to 2 or 3 very straightforward goals that ruled out a set of opportunities, ruled out retail, ruled out some other things. Made me realize I wanted to be a B2B, business to business operation. And got down to maybe 2 finalists. Signworld was one, and there was one other, and but the other one was a franchise. And I realized in my final analysis that not only did Signworld meet all my initially understood objectives, I realized I had an even stronger independent streak than I realized. And the other opportunity was really a very nice opportunity. I realized I didn't fit in the franchisee world. I really enjoyed the opportunity to own my own business, make my own decisions, live with my own consequences that were created, and still have an amazing support structure surrounding me. And so, yeah, I went from a very, very broad field down to Signworld for those reasons. And oh, by the way, it's fun. Oh, by the way, it's fun. That was the final thing.
Gotta have fun with what you do. Very good. Hamid, how about you? Talk us through your journey of making this decision.
Yeah, I think it's, Helen is right. I mean, you have to first, have to bound your search by what you think you want rather than what is available, because there's so much available out there. And if it's like a Google search, you could get 1.8 million hits, and that's not an easiest way to make a decision. So I think a little bit of self-evaluation and self-awareness is probably the biggest thing. I also wanted something that was very different than what I had done. I had enough of technology, I had enough of software, and I kind of liked the idea of having something physical that I could touch to sell. That was very important to me because I was never able to get a great amount of satisfaction by creating a 40,000 line software program, because that couldn't get a smile on any customer's face. And also, completion of projects is a big thing for me. I think, you want to be able to enjoy that idea of completion. If you work for, SpaceX, then your rocket will be launching every 5 years and you only get to smile 5 years ago. I want to smile every 3 months. So that's why I picked this kind of business. And
so wait a minute, you only want to smile every 3 months? Did I hear that right?
Well, at least every 3 months. So that's what I like about the sign business is you start a project, you end the project, and you know how good you are every day. You don't have to wait for 5 years to figure out whether your project worked or not. That happened to me a lot in big high-tech companies. And so those are the kind of things that were important to me. And, I didn't want to learn a new, I wanted to enjoy myself. So I think this is a very simple business. And there's, and I don't think experience of 30 years really helps you. In fact, I think it hurts you in this business because there are too many people who've been doing this for a long time and they have forgotten what the outside world is. So being an outsider is a big advantage in this business.
All right, very good. Thank you for sharing those thoughts, Hamid. Larry, back in the day when you were pondering your decision, tell us how you chose Signworld.
Well, when I started to look for my second career, I had no idea what I was looking for. I really didn't. The only thing I knew is I graduated from college. I got into a management training program, and I woke up 27 years later, and I'm now on this search that I hadn't done before. So I hired a business broker, and we looked at all kinds of businesses, all the typical ones, the subways, the mailboxes, etc., the maid services, all kinds of different businesses. And in different industries, and I liked what I saw. They were businesses that were clean. They were businesses that I knew I could run, but there was something about it that wasn't right for me. And it was the fact that I was still running a piece of somebody else's company. And that's not what I was interested in. I wanted my own company. So I heard about a company called Signworld that operated a little bit differently. They gave you the help and the support up front. They gave you vendors, equipment, and training in an industry that I don't know anything about. And at that point, then it's my company. And I really like that. So for me, it was different. It didn't have anything to do with signs or anything. It was just simply how that was structured. And it allowed me to have my own company and the freedom to do things the way I wanted to do. And it has been absolutely fantastic for me.
Great, Larry. Thank you so much. Jack?
You know, I don't think anybody joining Signworld had a passion and a desire to make signs. That's just the product we make. I wanted close to home with small core career employees, with a small core of repeatable customers, where every product was unique and different, where I could see the tangible results afterwards. I wanted the Monday through Friday, the B2B world. I made a list of 35 things that are important for me. Signworld hit all of them. But as the others have said, there's no rules, no royalties. I think most Signworlders will come back to say, it's a great business with all the flexibility that you need and want. And in the end, you make the decisions. It's a business in a box with alternative assembly instructions.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, let's go to our next guest on the line today. Kevin, if you can take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question for the group.
Good afternoon, Kevin Bremer calling in from Michigan. I'm up in Metamora, so north of Detroit, about 30, 40 minutes north of you, Larry. I recently sold a business that I had started back in 2008. I'd been involved in trucking for about 10 years prior to that. 2008 came along and I lost my job. I started up a trucking company, grew it, and got a little bit worn down because of the 24 hours a day, 7 day a week schedule that we were on. Very few weekends, very few holidays. You know, we always had drivers on the road. So I sold that to a group of investors based in Metro Detroit earlier this year, did a transition phase, and now my wife and I are looking for another business to get into, something that we can do for the next 15 years, 20 years, that we will enjoy, that we will see tangible results from, that we'll see the results of our effort. And something that's going to give us a little bit of flexibility, maybe a little bit, little enjoyment and a little bit easier lifestyle where, you don't get woken up at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning or nights and weekends. One of my, I guess what I'm looking for, we're looking at a lot of different opportunities, but what do you think the keys to your success have been?
Great question. All right, let's limit it to 3 because they probably got lots of keys to success that they can list. Larry, let's start with you. What are your 3 keys to success in this business, in your opinion?
Well, I will say 1, customers need to like you. That's pretty simple. We're a small business. We go out and see people in their businesses, some small, some large. But they have to actually like you. You have to have that personality and they have to have a trust in you. So I think that's important. And it's that connection that you make with them. You have to have reliability. They have to, once you are given a job, you have to be trustworthy. You've got to do that job. You've got to get it done on time and do it properly and all the things that you would expect somebody to deliver. And then I think the other one is, I think there's some creativity in this industry, and I have none of it, absolutely zero. But I know how to hire people. I know how to hire friendly people, and I know how to hire people that are creative. And I think that can set you apart from your competition.
Very good.
Thank
Thank you, Larry. Hamid, how about you? What's your 3 keys to success?
I don't think I know if they're really truly keys to my success, but I'm going to conjecture, because at least based on what I've been doing. One thing is it's one of the things that we have implemented here, which has made life enjoyable and easy for me and for my employees, is that we take the responsibility of being somebody's supplier of signs as a fiduciary duty. So we kind of make a very simple decision that we are going to take the side of the customer in this case. And what would be the best thing for the customer, that's how you make your decisions. And that makes life so easy, because then you don't have to lie to them. You don't have to tell them stories about why it was delayed. You don't have to tell them as to why it is more expensive. You probably have a good reason of why you picked a better material, so you need to be able to explain that. And that whole attitude has made life so much easier for all of us and all our employees. It's sort of like, I don't need the government to tell me that I need a fiduciary duty. And of course, I don't do this for charity. We tell our customers that if we don't make money, we won't survive. And if we don't survive, you don't have such a good supplier. So we are not the cheapest sign company out there. We're the best sign company out there. If we're the cheapest, we are worried. and so that actually, I think has been one of our keys of success. The other thing is, I got tired of competing with Elon Musk and all the smart guys like that. This market is much easier. I don't have to deal with all those Harvard and Stanford MBAs. So life is a little easier. So, I'll be very honest with you. It's much easier to compete with sign companies than with Tesla.
I'm sure it is. All right, very good. Thank you, Hamid. Helen, how about you?
So I think there'll be some overlap here, right? Just all using our own words. For us, it's our client engagement and communication is number one, right? So, and we use that as our differentiator, and it's how we interact with our clients, right? And putting the interests of the clients at the beginning of that, spending time with our clients and engaging with them. And we've had many, a project that started out as a client called us and 3 other sign companies. And before the end of our first conversation, which is more than a few minutes, they are telling us, you know what, I've already decided. I haven't even seen your estimate. I've already decided you're the company I'm going with. You just really spent time listening to me, asking a lot of really great questions, discussing options and alternatives, kind of giving me the straight up scoop on some things that'll be hard and some things that'll be easy. That's the kind of communication I want, right? The second one is just how we handle things when things go badly, right? I mean, again, think about Hamid's comment around fiduciary, sorry. So that largest client I told you about at the beginning, we did a frosted window project for them, a whole series of frosted windows, and we had some issues. And I just made a decision at the time, you know what, we're just going to redo these. It could have been debatable. Won't go into all the details, but it could have been debatable. I could have made a decision and said, sure, but if you want to change this, you're going to pay for this whole thing. And I just made a decision that, you know what, I really want to make it right for this customer. We're just going to redo this. And that's when he walked in about a month later and said, you know, I've seen how you handle things when things go well, and I've seen how you handle things when things don't go well. And you've earned my trust and my respect. And now we're turning all this other substantially bigger amount of business over to you. And he still is 2.5 years later. The third, I would say, is the culture of our team. We work hard on that. We have a set of core values that we have on our walls. We talk about them continuously. And from the time somebody comes in and is interviewing with us to the day they walk out the door, if they walk out the door, we still have employees who've been here for quite a while. we're continuously reinforcing those core values, which is all about how we treat each other as well as how we treat our clients. And I think just continuous reinforcement of those core values and building a very positive company culture has also been really important to our ongoing success.
Wonderful. Thank you, Helen. Jack?
Realize that, kind of what they were talking about before, most sign companies are not owned by business people. They're owned by former sign makers. They're doers trying to run a business rather than business people running a sign company. So differentiating yourself, as they've talked about, of being a proper business and handling the customer properly is huge. Then it's hiring properly and delegating. You're there to work on the business, not work in the business. That's different than our competition. And third, follow the plan, stay connected. You have the ability to tweak it to your own, but the Signworld system works pretty well. So customize it to you, but follow the plan. And then this organization of 350 owners that are willing to help each other is so different than the franchise world, where you get to talk to the corporate office and not talk to each other. So being able to stay connected is huge to being successful.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Okay, let's go to our next guest. Patrick, if you can take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question for the group today. Patrick, on the bottom left of your Zoom window, there should be a mute button that you can click on to unmute yourself. All right, we'll skip past Patrick at the moment. I'll look to see if you come off mute in a moment. Peter, if you can take yourself off mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question for the group.
Hi, this is Peter Haslam. I am coming to you from the northern Chicago suburbs. I was recently let go of my last job in accounting, which I've been in for 30 years. So I am, I'm thinking about a new direction. Some of the things that Hamid said really kind of resonated with me. But also, Jack, I'm very much a doer. And one thing that I've kind of lamented in the corporate world is that nobody values the work anymore. So I'm really looking for an opportunity where I can hustle, where I can serve my customers, and do right by them, and be rewarded by hard work. I guess my biggest question is, what do the first few months of ownership look like in Signworld?
All right, going back to the early days of your business. Sorry, I hear a little feedback here. There we go. Going back to the early days of your business, what were the first couple months like? Let's talk about it from what were you focusing on? And then my guess is he's also thinking about the financial aspects of the business. So kind of give a little bit of both. So let's start with Hamid first.
Okay. Yeah, I think this is where the mentoring and the help that the Signworld brings to you comes in very handy. They prepare you for what you're getting into. People ask me about the experience. It's in a lot of ways, it's sort of like, Signworld will teach you how to start swimming on the shallow end of the pool. And then slowly they will push you into the deep end, but they won't follow you there. And you'll be on your own at that time. And so the first I would say for the first 12 months are like swimming in the shallow end, because they prepare you for that in some ways. And for me, Jack and Ken in the training kind of taught me that the two most important things that I have to get done on the business side and on the financial side. So I budgeted at least 12 months of cash flow that I would be able to not worry about what's going on. I would assume that I did not make any money the first 12 months, and if I had to support myself, and how would I get going, so that you have that in your startup capital. And then after that, I focused on the two most important things. One was getting the right location. So I worked for, I think, what, 4.5, 5 months, because I was moving to a very hot market. Raleigh is like top 5 market for business formation, and so real estate was very tight and everything. I mean, I think we're only second to Helen's market, Austin, Texas, and so that it took me 4.5 months to find that place, to find the right place that I could afford and yet be able to do a good business. And second was finding my first employee that I could fit with, somebody who complimented me and had the experience of the sign business and was amenable to taking directions from my business experience. And so those two things essentially were my biggest tasks. And I did not do a lot other than those two things in the beginning. So I think it may not be the 2 months, but I think it was 6 or 7 months. That's all I worried about.
Very good. Well, for the record, Jack might not help you in the deep end of the pool, but I'll help you. He doesn't know how to swim as well as I do. So love that analogy. Very good. Okay, let's move on to Helen, thinking back to the early months.
So I'm going to continue on the pool analogy. I actually think about my first few months of what I did is I just jumped directly into the deep end, but I did so comfortably because I knew I had some really great life preservers, right, to keep me afloat. That's the way I would look at it. And I learned that from my IBM career. I learned, the faster you jump in and the faster you ask dumb questions, the faster you get smarter. So I learned that. I had that as a lesson coming into this whole new domain where I didn't know how to make a sign. I didn't know what a channel letter sign. I still remember going on my Discovery Day tour and they're all talking about channel letter signs. I'm like, what's a channel letter? So I just decided I was going to jump in with a really, really safe life preserver and spend my first few months not only taking advantage of that life preserver, but as quickly as possible, figuring out how to develop other little tools in the deep end to help me swim better and faster. And so now if I sort of translate that to the sign domain, right? So one of my first bids was, believe it or not, a channel letter sign. And I'm like, you know what? I'm never going to learn this unless I jump in. And so I got on the phone with several suppliers that were on Signworld's preferred supplier list. And I said, okay, I'm a newbie. Walk me through this. What's a raceway and what's a wireway and what questions should I be asking? And they were incredibly patient at walking me through it. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to have to learn how to put together an estimate, might as well learn Corebridge day 1 versus, day 60. Let me struggle through and figure out how to use this tool to my advantage. And, and so I just jumped in the deep end. I took advantage of all the life preserving capabilities that Signworld had available to us. So I wasn't worried about sinking. But in that first 6 months, I very much made use of all of the tools that were available to me. And my goal was, again, the faster I ask the dumb questions, the faster I ask the questions, right? I won't even call them dumb questions. The smarter I will get. And the faster that I just tackle head on the things that I knew I needed to learn and to grow for my business, the faster I would become productive. And so I focused on putting systems in place. The faster I can develop our pricing, the sooner I'm going to be able to turn around those estimates faster. The faster I get to know who are the vendors and suppliers in my particular area, in the Austin area or in the surrounding, hour to hour and a half away, major vendors that I want to get to know. Let's go out and understand who they are. Let's go visit them. Let's figure out what their capabilities are. So to me, it was jumping in and realizing, I was a little uncomfortable and it was okay. It was okay because I had a lot of life preserving capabilities that were very much available to me. And the faster I was willing to tackle those things, the faster my business was starting to stand up or swim on its own.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. Larry?
Well, I think when I started, when most people start, a lot of their focus is on the marketing of the business because you're out there I didn't have a website when I first started, but when a new Signworld opens, they've got their website started, but it's, you know, it needs some work to generate some of those leads, to start getting the phones to ring, to get the quotes on the internet. So a lot of the focus is on that. That's critical. And then the jobs start coming in. And then what actually happens is every job takes you longer than you think it should, because you're not used to it. It's like if you're right-handed doing something left-handed. So things take longer. You do the job once, the next time a job like that comes in, it gets easier and easier, and it gets done quicker. And you can take on more jobs, more responsibilities. And then I think you move from that singular focus of that just marketing to doing a little more of the refinement of looking at the customers that you have and figuring out, how can I build the business with my customers? Kind of the figuring out where those repeat customers are. So we don't want just the one-off customer that wants a single banner. You want somebody that needs signs every week or every month. And so it's now focused on trying to find and develop those customers. So that's, to me, that seems to be the early trend on when you start your business.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. Jack?
You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this, and I think that everybody here has given some good answers. By the way, I'm going to start several slideshows that'll go on in the background. There's no audio to them. We continue with questions during it. The first slideshow is going to show you some of the operations inside and out, so you can see what facilities look like. The second slideshow is what is a sign, not only what you're able to make with original equipment, but what you're able to make as you mature the business, as well as the things that you're going to outsource until you get deeper in the business of bringing that extra equipment. And it shows some unusual things that you might not think of as a sign. The third slideshow is going to show you some of our wall of fame, some of the bigger projects that Signworld Owners have had. You know, in the beginning, as Larry said, in the beginning, you're building relationships, not cold calling, not knocking on doors, but joining the Chamber of Commerce, the networking group, the Rotary Club, letting the world know that you're there. And then long-term, you're nurturing those relationships, trying to cultivate and figure out who the core ones are. So the business is going to go through several stages. You're going to start with one employee and a set of equipment that will make everything, but will make about 75% of your revenue, and then have a roster of manufacturers that can supply the others. So you're interacting with customers probably 50 to 75% of the day, and managing the business the other 25 to 50% of the day. The fun of the business is every day is different. Every project you're doing is unique and different. So it's that constant learning curve. And I think Larry will tell you, after 20 years, he's still coming across projects he's never done before and has to kind of figure them out. It's not like a franchise where every day looks like yesterday.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. And are you planning to share your slideshow? We haven't seen it come through, just making sure.
Yep.
All right, very good. Okay, so going back to our guests, Patrick, I don't know if you've been able to come off of mute, but I'll give you another quick chat. Otherwise, I'll go to our next guest. All right, must not be able to unmute himself. Craig and Michelle, we see you've joined us. If you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute, share where you're located, and give us a question for our owners to answer for you today.
Hi, this is Craig. Michelle will be joining in just a second. Yeah, we're from the Sacramento or the Bay Area in California, and we're looking at opening up a potential Signworld here in the next quarter. The biggest question I think that I have is, in the first year, on average, what were your hours like? Just give me an idea of, like, Monday through Friday, how much time you were putting in, and then also how much time you put in on the weekends.
All right, great question.
Yeah.
Kind of follows up with the early months. So thinking overall, your first year, how many hours did you spend in the business? Larry, let's start with you first.
I would say early, and it goes back to my comment about the jobs and how long it takes, how long you think a job should take, and then you find out that it takes you longer just because you're not used to doing it. So I would say you worked more hours early. And I did not work excessive hours, but I would say I was 50, 55 hours as I started out. As we got more efficient, I worked less hours. We are pretty steady right now. We start at 8 o'clock in the morning and we're done at 4 in the afternoon. And I am kind of known for playing a lot of golf, and I do, in fact, now in the summers, I take 3 days a week and play golf. So I'm pretty fortunate with that. We don't work weekends. We have some of the guys in the back will come in on the weekend and they'll do some work back there, but the management team does not.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. Helen?
So first of all, I have to start out by saying I'm a workaholic. So whether the business demands it or not, that just seems to be what I do. But I think probably in the first year was probably 55 to 60 hours total. I tend to work long days. I find myself, I'll be here at 6:30, 7 at night. I'm like, I could quit for the day. And then part of me is like, nah, I just want to get this one more estimate out the door. So, some of it's the decisions you make for yourself. And weekends, for me, I tend to want to take more of the weekends off, and that the weekends are my downtime. And so I'll just do maybe a couple of critical things over the weekends. I tend to run payroll on the weekends because I know I can do it uninterrupted. It'll get done reliably. I'm not going to risk not getting it submitted in time, but that doesn't take me very long at all. So there's some limited tasks I might do on a weekend when I'm not interrupted. But I would say probably in that first year, I'm going to guess 55 to 60 hours. And again, a lot of that's up to you.
Very good. Thank you, Helen. Hamid?
So I was actually relocating from California back to the East Coast when I started the business. So for a few months, I was actually living in an apartment in Raleigh and trying to look for my place and start hiring people and those sort of things. So during that time, I do remember I didn't have much of a life. So I did work, I would say 55, 60 hours a week. But once my family moved with me by the end of the year, which was around, December. After that, I have very proud to say I have never worked a weekend. So I've never gone to the office on a Saturday or a Sunday. The only employees who want to go on Saturday and Sunday make overtime if they have a work to do and if they want to do it. I don't require anybody to work Saturday and Sunday. And I think nowadays, I don't think I work beyond 40, 45 hours a week. I start at 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm usually done by 4 o'clock. And the only extra time that I do, which I enjoy doing, is networking. So if I go out networking, that would be extra time, usually after 4 o'clock, till 6:30. But I realized that I'm not a workaholic. I don't know why companies decided to make me work so hard when I used to work for them. I was just fooled.
All right, very good. Thank you, Hamid. Jack, how about you?
Anybody will take a small business will take as many hours as you're willing to give it. One of the reasons I chose Signworld, it was a Monday through Friday business. Your business hours are 8:30 to 5. So you can lock the doors, go home and have dinner with the family. If you work extra hours working on a quote, you can do it around family activities as opposed to in place of family activities. I rarely work nights. I rarely work weekends. I was probably in a 50, 55 hour a week early on, and later on, probably in a more of a 40 hour a week. Some Signworld will tell you they work a lot more, and some will tell you as the owners here today, a little bit more disciplined on it. It's your choice. Well, you can delegate it out and let somebody else do it as opposed to you having to do it all yourself.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, that's it for today as far as the first round. So let's go ahead and go around again one more time. For those who want to ask a second question, I'll start with you, Joel. If you'd like to come off of mute, if you have a second question for the group today, go ahead with it.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. So as far as the signs go, do you guys help with the design of the sign? Give a suggestion on the size, or do the customers know already what they want? They just say, I know what I want. Can you make it? Or just say, help me have an idea.
Okay, so talking about the consultative approach of the business and the design and how to make it. Let's start with you, Hamid.
Yeah, I think, you have different kind of customers. There are customers who actually have a design already figured out, or they have bought it from somewhere, or they used it before and they give it to you. And in those cases, you essentially want to make sure that the design work that they have given you is usable as it is, so that you can print it or make it or fabricate it. If they have none of those things and they want you to create that, then it's an opportunity for you to sell them that service. And so we usually try to understand the customer needs, give them a choice that, hey, if we do the design work, this is what we will do for you, and this is what your expectations will be, and this is how much it will cost. So that's, the good news is we are in a custom job. It's not like you can go to the Amazon website and just order what is already being sold. Here you get to sit down, and the word custom is very important. That's one of the reasons why, Jeff Bezos, if he needs a sign, he cannot make it himself, because nobody wants a Jeff Bezos sign that will go to 10,000 people. Everybody wants their own sign to be unique, right? So that's what, custom sign business is all about.
Very good. Larry, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Hadid. There's you've got all types of customers. Some have their own marketing department and they know exactly what they want, the size that they want. And you'll have others that will have absolutely no idea. And they'll tell you they want a certain size, but based on your experience, it's something that's too small or it's too large. So you can give recommendations. You also, when you start talking about exterior signs, there's also limitations by what cities will allow. So you bring your expertise to them on that as well. But as far as actually going to the job and telling them what I think, coming up with an idea on the spot, I don't do that. That's why I have designers who are, as I said earlier, they're very creative, and I'm not. So I go there, find out what the needs are. I get photos, I get measurements, get all the things that I need to bring back to my designers, and I let the creative people come up with the ideas for the customer.
Thank you, Larry. Helen?
Yeah, so like the others have said, you're going to see the full spectrum from people who come in and know exactly what they want, to the people who call up and say, I want a sign. And we're like, okay, well, do you know about how big? I don't know. Do you know what you want it made out of? I don't know. And so you have to take into account, we say that there are some people who, most people don't know how to speak sign language. I'm not talking American Sign Language. So, again, some people can come in and they know exactly what they want. Even then we'll review it and we will give them feedback on doability, whether or not a city will allow that if it's an exterior sign, whether or not we can actually fabricate what they're looking at on paper. So they may come in with a design that is, we can actually just produce as is. They may come in with a design, but we have to modify it in working through it with them. And sometimes they have no idea. When it comes to designing, if it's a client who needs design assistance, usually we will start with sending them several photographs of projects that we have done in the past that represent different approaches that they can take, and use that as a tool for helping them narrow it down or getting their feedback. What we're not going to do is do a lot of unique design work up front before they've even decided if they're going to work with us as a company. What we can do is we can facilitate that process initially at pretty much no cost by sharing like I said, photographs of projects we've done in the past that are in the same ballpark. And that way they're feeling like they're progressing the conversation, and yet we haven't committed a lot of our resources to it yet. So, but then we'll go all the way through, and we will charge them for design projects if that's appropriate, to go through to finally get to the point where they've got a design they're happy with, and we know it's implementable and installable, and will pass any local codes if that's warranted.
Thank you, Helen. Jack, your thoughts?
I think they've all answered it pretty well.
All right, very good. Let's go to our next guest for a second question. Kevin, if you can take yourself off of mute, share a second question if you have one for the group.
No, I don't actually have any questions right now. Just taking it all in. Thank you, though.
Absolutely, not a problem. Peter, do you have a second question for the group today?
So I know that Signworld is more of an alliance and not a franchise. But I guess how much competition is there between between the different owners?
Okay, great question. It took until almost the end of the webinar before competition came up. That's usually one of the first ones. All right, let's start with Larry. Larry, do you feel you have competition with other Signworld owners, and how do you compete against other sign companies? What's your thoughts?
I can honestly say there is not competition between the owners, other than, I want to do more business than the next guy and he wants to do more business than I do, but it's not the competitive nature of where you're not helping one another. It is incredible how much help you can get and how much help you give to other owners. You want them to do well. There isn't something that every Friday you have to call in your sales, and if you aren't doing as much as the person in the next county, there's no problem. So it is not competitive that way at all.
Very good, thank you. Hamid, how about you?
When I started looking at my market, the first thing I did was I hired a high school kid and told him to search every sign company in the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill area. And in a week or so, he came back with a list of 183 companies. There were 183 companies that were saying that they were in the sign business. Out of them, more than half, almost 95 companies had only one employee. And then after that, only 4 or 5 companies were making more than $2 million in revenue or had more than 10 employees. And so it sort of tells you, there is competition and there is no competition. It all depends on what you consider to be your competition. The lifestyle owner of the business who makes sign, does 4 jobs, has enough money, goes to the beach for 4 weeks and comes back, is not the company you need to be worried about, right? And also, there's a great opportunity here for a professional from another industry to come and bring in professionalism into this business, and therefore raise the level of expectations of all customers. And that's what I think we try to do. So I don't think a problem is competition. Our problem probably is more that customers are not aware that they can have such a good experience with sign companies also, just the way they have with other well-run companies. So I kind of look at that as one of the reasons why, it's overrated to go to Silicon Valley. I think it's much more fun doing business here.
And Hamid, as far as other Signworld owners, do you feel you're competing against them?
Well, I would love to see more Signworld owners because they will raise the level of profession. But no, I think very good customers, when you go and compete for very good customers, you have good competition. But an average customer, I think you just need to deliver. And I've never competed with another Signworld owner. I compete with a lot of other, the closest Signworld owner to me is about 11 or 12 miles, but I've never seen my customer go to him or his customer come to mine.
Very good. How about you, Helen? What's your thoughts?
So so specific to Signworld, There's probably about 4 others that I'm counting right off the top of my head that are within about 30 minutes of my shop. And we are by far greater collaborators than we are competitors. Because we're close to each other, we don't tend to discuss our pricing with each other. There's a few topics that we tend to take off the table, and yet we are very supportive of one another. I think there's one time where I was at a local Texas Sign Association event, and one of the other Signworld owners was there, and I overheard him having a conversation with a local fabricator that we share. And I realized by listening to this conversation that this other Signworld owner was bidding on the same job I was bidding on. And so I walked away, and then I told them later, I'm like, you know, it turns out you and I are both bidding on this job. Good luck to you. We won't talk about this again. Let's see who wins. Right. And, you know, it was just in fun. Right. But more often than not, one of us is calling the other and saying, you know, I just had a head strike. My machine's down. Can I come print this at your shop? Sure. Come on over. Oh, I just ran out of this ink. Do you have any in stock? Because it's going to be tomorrow or the next day before I can get it delivered. Sure. Come on over. Right. My plotter's acting up. Can I bring my material? Sure. Come right. So we are far more there to help each other out. Or, hey, you got an auger, I don't. Would you mind drilling this hole for me? Sure. And we, you know, we usually work out an arrangement where with each other where we're paying each other, right? We give each other great deals, and that because we're independent sign, you know, business owners, we can make up our own rules about how we want to operate with each other. But we tend to, you know, we help each other out. We also, you know, charge each other what's fair when we think we need to. But no, it is an incredibly collaborative, helpful network of all of the Signworld owners that are nearby. And then as far as further afield, it's just amazing. I mean, if I've got something that I got a job down in Houston or up in Dallas or down in San Antonio or across the country, I've got an amazing network of other Signworld owners that give me priority because I'm in the Signworld network.
Great. Thank you, Helen. Jack, your thoughts?
You know, the customer world is so big and the product's so diverse that you're going to be swinging in different directions. The only competition between each other is blindly bumping into the same customer, asking a couple to do it, not going after each other's customer. We need each other's help and support more than we need to take that one customer.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, let's give our last guest one chance to ask hopefully a quick question. Craig and Michelle, if you can take yourself off mute, do you have a second question for the group today?
Hi, this is Michelle. I do have a question, it's probably really quick. Your significant other, how much do they play into the business, and kind of like what do they help you with, or what do they do?
Great question. Let's start with you, Helen.
My husband, the love of my life, we just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. He is my biggest cheerleader and moral supporter. When I have a good day and I'm going home, he's there to listen and celebrate. When I have a bad day and I go home, he's there to listen and console, right? And every once in a while, I joke that if, you know, we've had a date night or two, which is really spending a Saturday doing a project just because the two of us wanted to work on it together. But he has a day job, right? So he plays no formal role in the company whatsoever. He's got his own job, his own career in technology, which I share that background. So we chat about that after hours as well. And like I said, every once in a rare while, you know, we'll it's pretty sad, but we'll have a date night. We also, we have a give back that we do. Our kids went to a local Catholic school here, and my husband and I are still very passionate about giving back to that school. And so we sell them signs quite a bit. But one of the things we do is we sell them gym banners, but my husband and I go and install them for free. And so we get in the gyms on nights and weekends, and we get the 20-foot ladder up against the wall, and we're going and we're hanging those gym banners. And that's just something Phil and I do together. And it's just part of something that we like to do for the school.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hamid?
Yeah, my wife is not very interested as much in the business, but she's always willing to help. And one of the tasks that I knew she would be very good at and that she could do without having to come to the office or anything like that would be to help us with permits. And so she manages all the permits, and she's now actually training one of our project managers employees to learn so that she can even get out of that. And the other thing she does, she was a banker by profession, so she's very good with numbers and finance. So she does look at my my finances every month and tells me what's going up and what's going down and what I should be worried about or what I should be celebrating. But other than that, you know, she's quite happy to let me be alone and have fun.
Very good. Jack?
My wife and I ran the business together. I was more involved in customer interaction. She was more involved in project management.
And what's the percentage of husband and wives that are involved in the operations today, Jack? What would you say the demographics are like?
60% are guys doing it by themselves, like Hamid and like Larry. Larry had to just drop off the call. He had an appointment to get to. 9% are females doing it by themselves, like Helen. 30% are husband and wives, and 1% are other partnerships.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and I do want to be cognizant of our owners' precious time that they've given us today. Helen and Hamid, thank you so very much for joining our call and sharing your perspectives on your businesses today. We're delighted to have you part of the Signworld family, and great to hear you share your stories with us. So thank you for that. For our participants, we appreciate you joining in and your interest in learning more about Signworld. We look forward to those continued conversations to help you identify if this is the right fit for you in the next chapter in your life. So with that, I wish everybody a great rest of your Wednesdays, a happy holidays, and thanks for joining our session today. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.